but about 30 years ago moved out to Pasadena. And as I said, it's big. It's just this big, big room. And I have a set tour that I do there. I talk about the marriage bed, and then I talk about the temple carvings. My great-grandparents had a really interesting way of doing business. They used to go to China, and they would go into these very small villages, and they would say, "We like your temple. We'll buy it." And they would, and they'd take it apart, send it back to LA, where they would go into phase 2 of their business plan. Never sell anything. So all this stuff is still there. And so all this stuff is still there. So first the marriage bed, then the temple carvings, and we went then into the art room. And in the art room, I've always talked about my great-grandmother's dowry table. And this is the table that when the first family was still together, when everyone was young, when everyone was happy, that this was the table that they had all of their meals around, and it was gone. And my cousin, who has long run that store, has always said, "Grandma's dowry table will be the last thing I sell before I close the store." In fact, it was the first of the major pieces to go. And I have to say that these women from Fairfield were having a wonderful time. They really were, but I was just devastated, because in that 2 hours I realized that all of the people and all of the places who have made me who I am, all of the people who have loved me unconditionally, all of the people who have given me their stories, that all of them are going to be gone in a couple of years. Now, I know that I'm not the only one that this happens to. It happens to all of us. If it hasn't happened to you yet, don't worry, it's coming. I was in Capitola, California 4 or 5 weeks ago, and there was a woman named Winky. Such a cheerful name. But she called out from the audience, "Yeah, and it's not going to get any better." And here's the thing. It's not going to get any better. It's not going to get any better. So it's that feeling of loss that I think we all feel for the people and places who made us who we are. It's that feeling of loss that's at the emotional heart of Shanghai Girls. Just before I started on the tour, I was doing some research on Ming Dynasty artists, and I came across a quote from one of them who said, "Art is the heartbeat of the artist." And I've been thinking about that a lot, and I think that these words that I write, they are my heartbeat. This book is the one that's the closest to my heart, and I hope that it speaks to all of your hearts as well. Thank you. And I can tell you, because this is the last night, the first time I did this talk in New York, I just cried like a big baby. Oh, it was terrible. I was like, and then we went into the art room. It was really bad. Oh my God. But I, toughened up. Okay, so anybody have questions? We can have a few before. Yes.
I don't want to talk about the end of the book.
Okay, well, don't. Because they'll do something bad to you all of a sudden.
But I do have a question. And I love will there be a sequel?
Yes, there's going to be a sequel. Yeah. So that's the next book. So I've done the research, and I just, I'm going to drive home tonight. I'm not saying I'm starting to write it tomorrow, but and I know what's going to happen. And I don't know, do you think it should have a happy ending? We could use one. See, that's the thing. I think everyone's ready for a happy ending. Yes?
In your book, there seems like there's Mandarin and it's a Cantonese, but you didn't call it Cantonese.
Say-up dialect. So in the book, it seems like there's Mandarin and Cantonese. It's a real mishmash of different, because of where they're from and the family backgrounds, and then they also are living in Los Angeles. And so there were many dialects within Cantonese from that area around Guangzhou. So those people who were coming over in the 30s, from about 1900 to probably the end of the 30s, were from that area around Guangzhou, and they had very specific dialects, the Sayup, Samyup, and Toishan dialects. And those were the three main dialects that for people who came to the United States in that time period.
But that's still part of Cantonese.
Yeah, just dialects within Cantonese. Yes.
So would you repeat the question?
Yeah, I did. Didn't you hear? What's the difference between why there's Cantonese, Mandarin, but also Sayup, and what was Sayup? So it's one of the Cantonese dialects.
I just read Snowflower and the Secret Fan, and I was absolutely enchanted with it. I'm not really a great reader of fiction. As I was reading that, I didn't feel that I was reading. I felt that I was watching a play. And I wonder, has anyone considered, or have you considered, having that become a play in the theater?
So the question was, as she was reading Snowflower, she felt like she was reading a play. And have I ever thought of it to become a play? And actually, when I originally was thinking about writing the book, I was thinking of it as an opera. Because you could just see it as an opera. It's just so great as an opera. But no, not as a play. However, it is in development to be a film. And it's they have the director, they have most of their financing, they have a script, they have Zhang Ziyi, who is the young woman in Crouching Tiger, to play Lily. I don't know who's Snowflower. They have a list of people who they're talking to for Snowflower. But listen, I go to movies just like everyone else. How many times have you come out and said, "Oh, but the book was so much better"? Okay, it's not sometimes, it's every single time, right? So, we can hope for the best, but who knows? Yes, way in the back.
Can I ask a question about the new shoe?
Yes?
And a friend of mine asked me to ask you this question because she was not free to come this evening. And she said, is it true, or do you really believe that in a society dominated by men, that men never had access, or they never gained access, or never demanded access to the shoe?
Oh, so that's a great question. So this is a question about Nushu, the secret woman's writing, and do I really believe that in a society dominated by men, that they didn't have access or didn't want to have access to what those women were writing? Do men want to have access to changing a diaper? Do they want to have access to washing dishes or washing the floor or making dinner? I mean, no offense to the guys who are here, but, no, they didn't. They saw it as something that women did. It was on a par with feeding the baby or cleaning the house or stringing peas. It was completely unimportant to them. And, they knew it existed. They even wore it, because women would embroider things, and the men wore it. None of it has survived, but I've often wondered, what were those women thinking? About their husbands, like, oh, he's such a great guy, or something else. So now, and remember, it's just a phonetic version of the local dialect. So if somebody read it to the men, they would know exactly what it said, because it's just just a written version of the local dialect. So they would have understood it if it had been read to them. But they just saw it as something. There's I think a line in there. They thought it was like a pig's fart. I mean, it was just like just beneath them, really beneath them. Yes.
What to you is the favorite part of writing, and what's the worst part for you?
What's the favorite part of writing, and what's the worst part? I think my favorite part is the research. I love that. I just love it. I know there are a lot of other writers who hire crews of people. I could never do that, because you never know what you're going to find. Mm-hmm. And it's those moments. It was like with Peony in Love. Here I was just, doing research at UCLA, and I came across ghost marriages and really reading about it. And I just thought, oh, I have got to have one of those. Got to do it. Just got it. And so there are things that I find that I think other people would, if somebody else was doing the research, it wouldn't mean anything to them.